Emir Hashem, in the coming shiurim, for the next several weeks, we're going to focus on the laws that are relevant to Hashkamas HaBoker, the laws of Leida'ani, washing hands in the morning, the brachas, Birchas HaShachar, Birchas HaTorah, laws relating to getting dressed and going to the bathroom. These laws were featured in the Sefer Awaken Like a Jew, which was published earlier last year and is available for purchase through our website, Shulchanaruchharav.com. In today's lesson, we're going to go through a number of different statements of the Chassidic Rebbeim and the authors of the Shulchan Aruch regarding the importance of studying and learning practical halacha. There's a section of halacha in Shulchan Aruch called Hilchos Talmud Torah, the laws of Talmud Torah. In the laws of Talmud Torah of the Alter Rebbe, based on the Shach in Yeridea, chapter 246, and also brought in the Akdam of the Mishnah Brura, it's stated as a halachic ruling that the learning of practical halacha takes precedence over all other fields of Torah study. And only after one is clearly well versed in practical halacha, and those are detailed laws relevant to his daily life, is he to study other parts of Torah in depth. And therefore they write that one is to learn majority of Orach Chaim, selected sections of Yeridea, Even Ezer, and Choshen Mishpat. So this is a ruling in Shulchan Aruch, in the laws of Talmud Torah, that one is required to be well versed in halacha, and this receives precedence over other sections of Torah. The Chassidic Rebbeim, the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid both stated that the evil inclination tries to persuade a Jew not to learn practical halacha, and rather tells him to spend all his days learning the Talmud and its commentaries. They do this in order so the person does not serve Hashem properly according to his will. So is recorded in Sivas HaRivash and or Torah of the Maggid. It's recorded in Beis Rebbe that the Alter Rebbe distanced people from learning Torah simply for the sake of pilpul, and emphasized the necessity of learning in depth for the sake of practical halacha. It's brought down in the Akdam of the Shulchan Aruch that the Nitzel Rebbe decreed that every community is to set a study session to learn the entire Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch on the section of Orach Chaim. The Rebbe Rashab writes in Kuntres HaTfilah, chapter 17, that every chassid is obligated to learn the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim from beginning to end, and that every person is to establish a daily learning session to learn and review these halachas. The Rebbe Rayatz brings down from a mimer of the Rebbe Rashab of his father that in today's generation one must especially have Mesiras Nefesh not to swerve from even one letter of Shulchan Aruch. And the Rebbe Rashab reiterates this in numerous places that every Jew must establish a daily Torah session in halacha, each person on his level, whether Shulchan Aruch or Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. The Rebbe's directives. Till now we see clearly from the ruling in Shulchan Aruch and all of the Chassidic masters, starting from the Baal Shem Tov till the Rebbe Rayatz, the emphasis of importance of having a study session in halacha. The Rebbe has many directives in this regard and as follows. In a famous and long sicha of the 10th of Shvat, Tovshin Tesvav, 1955, the Rebbe lamented and bemoaned the situation in which in yeshivas they don't teach enough practical halacha, and they spend too much time in pilpul of Gemara, and children come out of yeshiva without knowing practically what to do in Judaism. And the Rebbe in that sicha emphasized tremendously the need for the yeshivas to enter more practical halacha in their schedule. The Rebbe writes that this applies even to yeshiva gdolos, as we see that the yeshiva students have a very minute amount of knowledge in the section of Orach Chaim. The Rebbe stated in a letter in the Ges Kodesh that if I had the power, I would establish that every mosad, every institution, beginning from the kindergartens and through the yeshivas and kollel, establish a shir in practical halacha. Elsewhere the Rebbe states, unfortunately we see amongst many students that they more expand their knowledge in Talmud and its commentaries, the less they know the laws relevant to their practical life. The laws of Orach Chaim are extremely necessary for one to be constantly well versed in them, as the questions that arise in these subjects in many instances do not give one the time to ask a rabbi or look in the Sefer for an answer. And the Rebbe went on to list a number of subjects in which it's so important that a person has a base knowledge in. The Rebbe in numerous letters requests of activists to establish a shir in halacha and practical halacha in each community, and that one should have a shir daily, at least for a number of minutes. Since the purpose is to know the practical halacha, the Rebbe writes that you don't have to learn specifically from the big Shulchanaruch, which is something that's difficult to bring down, a practical ruling, and rather one can learn from halachas melukatis, from the svarim of melaktim, in which halacha is brought down all the way to halacha l'maisa. In summary, it's clear from the directives in Shulchan Aruch and the directives of the Rebbeim that every Jew is to have a set learning session every day in practical halacha, even for a few minutes a day, and one is to use this time to learn practical laws from available halachic compilations and not necessarily from the actual Shulchan Aruch.